This is Fox News.
Bam, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the Kip Capley Show. I am joined with several of my friends, and we got a guest. If you see us on Facebook Live right now, we're sporting these pretty sharp-looking hats. They come with gifts today, folks. But I'm joined to my right with the man, the myth, the legend, Lawrence Sutton. Across from me is the Giles County Rattlesnake, Chris Morris. And then, to his right, my good friend, State Representative Jody Barrett. How y'all doing?
Doing good, buddy. How about you?
We good. We
Doing
good.
great.
Buddy. We back.
Happy to be here. Happy
yes,
to be
sir.
here.
Absolutely. We're all rocking the Jody Barrett caps, folks. I think it adds a couple points to our IQ. We hadn't figured that out yet. I guess we'll see here in the next hour if it helps or
And
not.
shout out to Strikers.
And of course, that's right. Shout out to Striker Steakhouse. If you've had anything good to eat lately from Lawrence County, it was probably from Strikers. Get over there and get you something to eat. Good food, good service. Great all-around place.
Yep.
Great all-around
Would
place.
you say you give them a AAA
Man, I don't know. I
on
think
the score?
I think they're big leagues myself. I wouldn't even call them AAA. I'd say Strikers is big leagues.
They're pretty good.
Michelin rated.
Yeah, Michelin rated. Yeah, I like that
It
too.
could be. It could
I like
be.
that too.
I'm just telling you.
So,
It could
you know,
be.
we're sitting here getting ready for everything, and y'all's good old buddy Justin Jones is in the news.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Lord, he's in the news two different ways. Jody, you were just mentioning about him marching with the pro-Palestinian movement in Nashville.
Yeah, he's been all over social media, and of course, it's funny. The Israeli attacks happened 2-3 weeks ago, and he didn't have a whole lot to say about it. And now that dust has settled down and he needs a little more attention, I guess he decided to go ahead and jump on the pro-Palestine bandwagon and start
much.
posting some stuff on the Twitter feeds.
Yeah, and for the folks at home that don't know who this stark raving idiot is, he is an elected official, one of our, unfortunately, colleague of ours that represents Nashville. I don't remember his district number because they're underserved with him
In
there
the
anyway.
House.
So, but he's a state representative in the House out of Nashville, one of the air quote Tennessee Three. We don't call them that. They're the three idiots, but soon to be four idiots, unfortunately, with the new one we've got coming in.
So who we got coming in?
Afton Ben.
Who is that?
Well, State Representative Bill Beck passed away. He also represented Nashville, part of Nashville. I think Broadway or something, wasn't it?
It's that, I think it's that kind of northeast side of town.
Yeah. He passed
Over by
away.
the stadium.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he passed away in the middle of his term. Unfortunately, God rest him. And they had a special election for his seat, and a former protester, crazy woman, ran, and she won.
It was a little bit dramatic too, because the Metro Council appointed someone because we had the special session coming up.
Right.
They went ahead and appointed someone to that position or to that seat that was a former Metro Council member, and he served through the special session. Actually, filed full 15 bills, I think, and I mean he was fired up, ready to go. He was a state representative for all of about 5 days of legislative session. Filed 15 bills, got all 15 of them killed. Even had a couple of resolutions and proclamations that he did while he was there. So he was all ready to go, but then he turned around and got beat in that special election.
Wow, crazy woman.
By a crazy woman.
She's been drug out of the house and camped outside the governor's house in a tent and all kind of.
So now,
Stuff.
with these other three, if I can get it out right,
Yes, sir.
we're going to now make a box.
Yeah, there'd be four.
Oh,
of them.
yeah.
Yeah, there'd be four of them.
What is going on in Nashville? I mean, Nashville's they're celebrating their first, I think, transvestite or transsexual or whatever
Trans
they are.
something.
You know, as a city council member. I mean, what's going on in Nashville? guys?
They've got the most well. Freddie O'Connell, who won up there, is the most liberal mayor they've ever had, ever in the history of the city.
Well, I think the Afton Bain or Bain, however she
something.
says it,
Yeah.
I think that election is indicative too, because the gentleman she was running against was absolutely left. Every bill he ran in the special session was a gun control bill.
Right.
Every single one of them was a gun confiscation, ban guns, whole 9 yards. So he is 100%, as far left as he can get away from Kip and I. And he got beat by somebody that, I mean, she's 3 countries over left to him.
Yeah, she's
How's that even possible? You know, it's crazy to see it. You know, just a little bit that I've seen. You know, up there at the
House.
Capitol and everything. I just don't understand how these people are elected. What are these people thinking that
Well,
are,
they
that are
drank
elected
what it
as
is.
representatives?
They've drank
Since
the
I guess
Kool-Aid. I mean,
I'm the oldest in the room. It's
I don't
part-
know. I'll be 50 next week, so I don't know. How old are you? If you want to, tell on yourself.
North of 50.
North of 50. But anyway, it's part of the George Soros plan.
Yeah.
It's where it's all coming from.
sure.
You know, this has been going on for years. You know, we've sat back asleep at the wheel, as I call it, and we've let these things go by, like slowly getting into our schools, indoctrinating our children. And everybody says, oh, it's not bothering me.
Yeah.
Well, it's directly affecting you now.
Of course it is.
If you don't think, just look at your wallet.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened has directly impacted every citizen in America.
Well, look, I think part of the issue in Nashville specifically too is voter turnout. If you look at these special elections, and the mayoral election was one of the lowest turnouts that Nashville's ever
Yeah,
seen.
I think it was less than 100,000 people voted.
Justin Jones in his special election got reelected back to that seat with 5,200 votes.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to represent 72,000 people because of 5,200 votes. So, you know, it's just indicative, I think, of the apathy, and it's also the culture that movement that they're behind or a part of creates.
The activists.
The activist culture, they want to create chaos and make it so difficult and disheartening for folks that they just don't even feel like they want to get out and get involved.
We're talking about. We're not going to talk about Gloria because I'm sure at some point she's passed a bill.
Well, there
or
is a
something.
connection between Afton Bain and Gloria.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, come
yes.
on, let's hear
spill
that.
it.
I didn't know
Spill the
that.
tea.
Yeah, we get some
Spill the
news here,
tea.
baby. I didn't know that.
Afton Bain grew up in Knoxville and has been a very close friend of Gloria's since she was a teenager. So
I didn't know that.
They are 100% connected.
Breaking news, folks.
They're no stranger to the rain.
That's right.
That's right.
I didn't know that. Huh.
Wow.
Well, there you go. Breaking news, folks. I didn't know that.
Well, other than this nut,
yeah.
Justin Jones, I've got a challenge for Mr. Jones.
Okay.
I welcome him to come on here, come on this radio program
Sure.
anytime.
Yeah, we'd love that. Well, I don't know that we'd love to have him.
talk to you face to face, eyeball to eyeball.
Sure.
Because he's wanting now to get notoriety for blasting our new Speaker of the House in Washington.
Yep.
You know, Mike Johnson.
Who brought a Bible to the podium, by the way. Shout out to
Shout
him
out to
for
Mike
that. That was
Johnson.
great. And they
Darn
prayed and
straight.
everything. That was awesome.
You know, he made a statement and told, of course, Sean Hannity interviewed Mike Johnson the other night. And here comes Justin Jones, the thug, as I want to call him. He said, I want to let Speaker Johnson know that my faith tradition, when you put objects above people, we call that idolatry, or however you say
Idolatry.
that. Idolatry.
Yes.
And when you put the lives of people under money and campaign contributions, we call that adultery. Jones told, and this was on MSNBC, and he is totally against, he said the guns, my Second Amendment. I want to tell you, Justin Jones, you took an oath
He did.
to protect my Constitution. And the Second Amendment, as far as I know, is still in the Constitution, right?
I hadn't seen anywhere where it's been torn out of the Constitution.
Yeah, I,
I
think it
hadn't
would
either.
still be there. Yeah,
It is part of the Bill of
So,
Rights.
I'd say
Justin
it's in the-
Jones,
it's
you're
in the top
failing at
10,
your job, big
top
boy.
5, actually.
I say
Number 2.
it even goes a step further. If you think about it, is what is somebody goes against the Constitution of the United States? What are they considered? They're considered traitors to this
Traitors.
country.
Well, I mean, he's talking about, and me and Jody talked about this earlier a little bit. It's funny that he's talking about, and I can't remember exactly how he worded it in that quote that you just said, but he was talking about idolatry of firearms and campaign contributions, and that goes against his faith and everything else. But it's funny to me how he thumps faith when it's convenient for him. But to me, you're sitting there, and he claims to be a divinity student or whatever at Vanderbilt, which we can go on with that for a while, but He's using his faith talking about that. But all of a sudden, when we're talking about killing babies in the womb, then he don't want to talk about that now.
No,
we don't want to bring up faith when we're talking about abortion now.
But he
Actually,
can
he don't
cuss like
Talk
a
about
sailor,
that. That's
too.
right. That's right.
You know.
Well, we all can, but I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a little different when you're talking about killing babies, and all of a sudden you don't even want to bring your faith into the conversation when we talk about killing babies. But when he talks about guns, though, you know, we got to talk about our faith when we're talking about guns.
that can
But
never
let's get
harm
off of that
anybody.
idiot. I'm tired of talking about
enough
him.
wasting our breath on that thug.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
So,
He's not worth.
If he's got a problem with it, he's welcome to come talk to us
he
anytime.
is. He absolutely is. Yeah.
So tell
Lawrence?
me, well, I mean, Jody, we got your hats.
Yeah.
Running for re-election.
That's right.
Do we have anybody competing against you yet?
Not aware yet. I mean, it's still a little bit early. I think there's maybe one or two people kicking tires out there, so you never know. But I want to let everybody know I'm definitely going to run again, and I've got a lot of work left to do, I think, up there. And you know, this whole first year, and I know that you guys have talked to Kip about it quite a bit. But you know, the first year really, I think, has been spent for those of us that are new to the state legislature of getting a lay of the land. Finding out who the people are, that you know, who are the players, who are the people that you can work with, can't work with, who you can trust, not trust, all of that stuff. And so, you know, all of us, I think, went up there with high expectations of things that we could do for the people of our district and the principles that we stand behind. But, you know, you don't just go up there and like a bull in the china shop and start breaking glass. You gotta lay out a plan for how you're gonna get things done, and that's gonna take a little bit of time. So for me personally, I don't think one term's gonna be enough. I think I need to get back in there and you know, keep working at it. And there's a lot of good things I think that we can get done with a lot of good people, and hopefully with each passing election we continue to get more and more conservative up there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that right there is big, is what you mentioned, the conservative part. And I'm going to tell you something, you know, Chris, you know, I'm sitting here, I was thinking about it. We have 20% of the representatives sitting in this room talking with us that actually voted to get rid of the special session.
Yeah.
There was
That's
only
true.
seven. There's only 7 of them, and we have 2 of the 7. So we have 20%. In my eyes, took a huge stance, a huge political gamble up in Nashville. Maybe not here among their people, but I don't think our people in general understand what a risk they took by doing that.
Well, I'm
It's a
proud
weird-
that,
it was a weird
that
couple
y'all
hours.
did. But, yeah,
It was weird for a minute, wasn't it, Jody?
but you know, it was weird. Same thing. You know, as a state executive committee man for Senatorial District 28, I introduced the motion that all 66 members of us send a letter to Governor Lee that we wanted the special session stopped.
Right.
You know, and it passed unanimous. Now, all 66 of us wasn't there, but there was 50-something of us there, and it passed unanimous. And I appreciate y'all backing that up.
Yeah.
That says a lot. So
Absolutely.
Well,
thank y'all for doing that.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get everybody to understand is we had only 7 people that went out and did what their constituents say. Now,
Out of the 99.
Out of the 99. Now, I'm not saying all 99 of the constituents maybe wanted it, but I guarantee you there was more constituents of these people that
Across
wanted
the
the
state.
special session not to take place than did.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of representatives out there that didn't. I can tell you this. I mean, here in Lawrence County and Murray County, Wayne County, and part of
Giles.
Hardin County,
Giles.
that wanted the special session in, Kip listened to those people. And I bet you it was 80 or 90%. I bet you it's probably close to that up there where you're at, Jody.
So,
Sure.
Jody has Lewis, Hickman, and half of Dixon.
About 2/3 of Dixon County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mary Littleton is your other
Correct.
rep.
Mary Littleton kind of has the northeast portion of Dixon County, White Bluff, and up toward Cheatham County.
Oh, Lord, White Bluff.
White Bluff, Tennessee.
So real quick, Jody's got an event coming up, folks, and we'll say this again before we end the show. It's going to be at High Forest Farms, right, Jody?
That's right.
That's 2128 Summertown Highway, right there in Hornwald. Coming up this Thursday, starting at 5:30, and you got a special guest.
I do. You know, I'm fortunate. I don't call in the big guns unless I need them, but I'm fortunate to have a big gun in my back pocket.
Yes, sir.
A high school buddy of mine, we've been best friends since we were 17 years old, and so John Rich kind of got me into this a little bit by twisting my arm and getting me to run. So now I get to twist his arm and make him come follow me around and do a tour of the 69th district.
That'd be awesome.
He's going to join me at 3 different events. We're going to do one Thursday, like you said, in Lewis County. Another one Friday night in Centerville at the Veterans Memorial Park, and then the following Tuesday, November 7th, will be one there in Dixon at Greystone Golf.
Yeah, we'll
Awesome.
rattle them off again toward the end so folks can remember. But y'all need to go support
Listen,
Jody.
you know,
man,
a shout out to John Rich.
Yes, sir.
Big and Rich. He is a big supporter of the Republican movement.
And the Second Amendment.
And the Second Amendment.
Big Second Amendment guy,
big
big
guy.
conservative when it comes to social conservatism. I mean, part of what got me involved in this race and in this seat is John was up on the Hill 2 years ago fighting for a House Bill 1944, which was trying to get this scourge of pornography out of our school libraries, and he was up there testifying in front of committee. And the gentleman that I replaced, the seat that I took, was a chairman of one of the subcommittees and actually voted against that bill. And that got John fired up. So he started looking for somebody to run against him. And, you know, at the time I told John, I was like, look, man, I got things going on. I got kids and businesses and things. I'm not your guy, but I'll try to help you find somebody. Well, about 15 days before the filing deadline, the gentleman that was in this seat just announced out of the blue, completely caught everybody by surprise. He didn't let his leadership know, didn't let the party know. Just 15 days before the filing deadline, he said he wasn't going to run for re-election.
That's the same gentleman had part of Murray County.
That's
Yes,
correct.
sir.
That is correct. So they changed the district a little bit, added Lewis County, dropped that sliver of Murray County, which I'm
Put
grateful
it on
for.
to you.
Which I'm grateful for, because the people at Hohenwald have been great. But you know, that seat opened up, and you know, 15 days is a short time to make up your mind, or to go out and for the party even to go recruit people, good people to run for that seat. And so, you know, as the time started getting close, I just told my wife, I said, look, I think I'm going to have to run for this, because I don't think, you know, I don't think we're going to get anybody good walking through that door.
So you had to get permission first.
Well, the wife is always
Everybody, I mean, hey,
Look,
now.
I've been married almost 27 years. I want to make it another 27, so I do my best to ask for permission every now and then.
Don't let Chris fool you. Okay?
Yeah.
Don't let Chris fool
Yeah.
you. He may talk a big game, but we know who wears britches in that household.
Well, we all know how a good marriage will work, so
That's right.
it's a two-way street for sure. But that's, you know, John kind of leaned on me a little bit to get involved, and so, you know, I'm leaning on him now, pulling him back into
That's
this
awesome.
and help
That's
me out a
great.
little bit.
That
And
is
look,
good.
the people in these counties are excited. They are absolutely fired up to see John come out there. I mean, most of your rural counties don't get an opportunity like this. And I'll tell you, he and I have a little bit of a past involved in the Republican Party too. When Fred Thompson ran, John was all in for Fred and got me involved. I became the campaign chair there in Dixon County. We raised $150,000 in Dixon County for Fred Thompson's presidential
Wow.
campaign, and he came
That's a lot of
to
money
an
back
event.
then.
That was
Yeah.
a whole lot of money.
And you do know where Fred Thompson is from.
I do know where Fred Thompson's from, and so
right
we
down the
were,
road, baby.
you know, he and I, we rode up and down the I-24 to Chattanooga and back on the bus with Fred and doing campaign stuff, and so, you know, this is kind of getting the band back together again now.
It's awesome.
Okay. That's
That's
where you
awesome.
got that from a while ago when you
That's
said getting
right.
the band back together.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great. Well,
Great.
we'll shout those out again too, and yeah, y'all need to come if you can. Absolutely. But real quick, before we get rolling on anything else, I owe Jody an apology, and I'll break down this here in a little bit. We had a couple shows ago, and it's been a little while, where we talked about the Gloria vote and some other things when we voted to expel these fellers. And there was some things said, and I should have got him on my show before then, folks. So here I am as a man. I'm apologizing, Jody. I should have got him on quicker. Things happen. You know how it works. But I want to give you some time. You just rattle on. We can talk about it. You kind of explain yourself to the people here, because it's not what everybody thinks, and I want to give you time to kind of clear that up.
Well,
and
I
also
appreciate it.
apologize.
I don't
for
want
sure.
to beat that dead horse.
No, no,
too
no, no,
much,
no,
but-
no, no.
And you don't owe me an apology.
Well, I'm going to anyway.
But I'll say this, there was some confusion about that vote and how that all went down, and most of that was due to the timing of it all, and leading up to the vote to the expulsion, there was a lot of discussion amongst the members as to, hey, what do you think about this? Where do we stand? And I was one of the most vocal people out there in favor of expulsion of all three of them. In fact, the afternoon after they acted out, before I left my office that day, I wrote a letter to the speaker calling for him, encouraging him to take the most severe action you can take. Whatever we got to do to get this in line and get this house in order, I'm for it. Let's do it. And I stood behind that the entire time. And so when I walked into the House chamber the day that we voted on those expulsion resolutions, I was 100% ready to vote in favor of all three. But what happens, like anything, you go into something with a plan, and maybe that plan changes just based on new information. And so in the course of the presentation of the resolution for Gloria, we did Justin Jones first, and he got up there and showed his rear end and didn't show any remorse or have any defense to speak of. He just pretty much gave us double fingers, and we expelled him.
Thrown out of there. Yeah, that's exactly how that happened.
That's pretty much how that worked.
Yeah.
And then Gloria showed up with lawyers and put on a defense, and prior to that, a video was presented to us by our leadership that I'd never seen before, was not presented to us prior to that hearing. So, it was new information to me at the time. And then when she presented her defense, and as I listened to the testimony, or it's not really testimony, it's not a trial per se, but anytime you're presenting a bill, there's debate back and forth about that bill.
Yeah.
And so same thing, a resolution's no different. You present the written resolution, that's what you're voting on, but you have oral debate as to whether or not we should support that resolution or not. And then through the process of that debate, I just felt like we had not made our case, and there was some deficiencies in the resolution itself that I had some real issues with. And I expressed that to...
You'd made it known, yeah.
Yeah, I expressed that to leadership on the floor as it was going down, and, tried to pull the nose of the plane up as much as I could for me personally. But, at the end of the day, just, we've got to vote our conscience and what we think is the right thing to do. And in that moment at that time, based on the information that was being presented, I just didn't think that we had done enough or done it the right way, I guess I should say, with regards to the resolution itself, to where I'm voting. When we push the red button or the green button, we're voting for the document that's written. And
the document was...
The resolution.
The document, the resolution, it wasn't sufficient.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so...
Which is fine.
Well, and I'm going to tell you something. Based upon what I had seen, I agree with that. I'll just say that. I wasn't happy about it either. And we talked about it.
I wouldn't either, trust me.
I know. If
I could have crawled under that desk, I would have.
It got real weird, folks. It got real weird.
You said you got physically ill.
I was, yeah.
You thought that there were enough votes that they were going to vote for her anyway.
Yeah, like I said, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and it happened really, really quick. When the vote flashes up on the board, we have a few minutes or a period of time before the vote closes, and all you can do is, there's not a tally. All you can do is kind of count numbers and try to see where you're at. And honestly, my intent was, my conscience said, I don't think I can vote yes for this resolution because we've not made up for the deficiencies in the written document based on the oral argument that we've had, debate that we've had on the floor.
Yeah.
Based on that, if I can vote no, but they still have enough votes to expel her, then I would feel good about that.
Right.
if I vote no and it gets her off, then and I know that I'm the vote that gets her off, I may not have voted. I may not have cast my vote the same way.
But you know what the thing is, though, if she had been expelled, couldn't you guys been sued based upon the testimony and everything that was out there?
And that was one of the things that I was trying to explain to our leadership is, look, the whole point of this process, of the reason we didn't expel them the same day it happened or the very next day, is because we've got to give them due process, and we go through this whole process and procedure of giving them an opportunity to present a defense.
Right.
And there are some members that said, well, it's not a trial, and we've already seen this. We already know what we're going to vote, and it's not like court. Well, it actually is. The resolution was the charging document.
Right.
The debate was the trial, and then the vote is the jury deciding whether or not she's guilty.
And most listeners, they probably don't understand that you're an actual practicing attorney as well.
I am.
Yeah,
Yes, I am. And so in the process of that, that's what I was explaining to our leadership, who also are attorneys,
Right.
that, look, I think there's some key elements here that we have to establish before we vote. And so I was asked, well, what do you want to ask her? And I said, well, here's 5 questions, laid it out there. And this is all while the debate's going on.
Yeah, and this is folks, this was a crap fest.
Is this before y'all went to the floor? Were you?
We're on the
we're on the
so
floor.
we're
You're
on the floor. The way this all went down, we're on the floor.
And I was there, so.
Yeah, okay. So the resolution gets presented, and then she has her opportunity to present her debate, and her attorney, which is a former representative, gets up and points out problems with the resolution. So I'm immediately start digging into it. As a lawyer, that's what I do. I read paperwork and try to find problems in the documents and in the language. And so while that's going on, we go into the questioning by one of the other representatives who's in charge. Kind of each of the 3 representatives that were being expelled, those resolutions had a kind of a leader that was going to lead the questioning of those 3 representatives.
Yep.
So the person that's asking questions of Gloria, that conversation is going on. Now, here's what nobody else knew. Before that started, before we started on Justin Jones's resolution, somebody came up to me, one of the members of leadership, gave me a list of questions and said, hey, as one of our lawyers in the body, we want everybody to know what questions we want to have asked of each of these 3 individuals. So follow along as the other people are doing questioning, because you're on the list and you might get called to answer some questions, to ask some questions. So I'm like, okay, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for the speaker.
Pins and needles, basically.
Waiting for the speaker to
Ready
call
to
me.
go.
Yep.
It goes all the way through. Representative Jones don't get called on, so I was taking notes the whole time because it's what
Sure.
I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we start in on Gloria, and I start making notes right off the bat, and the whole thing's going on. And so at one point, I got up and went to the member of leadership that gave me that list of questions. Said, "Hey, can I go off script, because I see these questions here, but there's some more stuff I think that I need to ask in order to clear this up." And he's like, "Yeah, man, you can go. If you get called on, you can do whatever you want."
Well, I had remembered after that you were back at your seat, because I sit behind Jody on the floor. I'm like directly like to the Jody's back left. I'm 2 or 3 seats down behind him, and I remember you threw your finger up and was like,
Hey,
coach, put me in the ball game,
yeah,
baby. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready.
Like,
I got something I think I need to add here. So I was waving down, trying to get attention, and got on the list.
Yeah.
And then, more people kept getting called, and about that time, our majority leader came by and asked me. He goes, "Hey, how do you think this is going?" I said, "Man, it's going terrible." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, look, he's asked her these questions. He's been called on twice now, given 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, 5 minutes of time."
And your majority leader is an attorney.
Yes, and I said, and we haven't established a couple of key elements here that we need to fix, because they've pointed out that there's a problem with this resolution. He goes, "Well, how do you think you're going to fix it now?" I said, "If I ask this, and then this, and then this, she's in this way, she's got to admit these things, and it boxes her into a corner, and we establish what we need to establish.
Proof.
Correct.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this, but hadn't you informed leadership prior to all this beginning that there was problems with the resolution?
No, that's where the issue came up. Is
Okay.
I didn't. So part of, again, as freshmen, I think all of us kind of sat back once we knew this was going down the road of expulsion.
Yeah.
Of expulsion.
Right.
We're riders in the back of the roller coaster.
And you basically are told this anyway.
Right. We're not writing resolutions.
No.
We're not filing anything. We're not involved in the meetings to discuss strategy or how this is going to play out. I mean, I was literally the day we walked in that morning asking, "Hey, how's this going? What's the procedure here?"
Yeah, it was get in the
Because I had
truck and let's go.
I'm the freshman leader,
Right.
and so I've got other freshmen asking me, "Hey, how's this procedure going to go down?" So
There was 13 of y'all as freshmen, correct?
14 total.
14 with you, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was asking our leadership, "Hey, what's the procedure here? How's this work?" Right up until we went in. And so could I have been more thorough and should I have probably read up and been more involved or asserted myself? Probably, hindsight being 2020,
Right.
but I mean, I just kind of assumed, hey, leadership's got this. They've done this before. They've handled the Jeremy Durham thing. They've been through Casada. They know what they're doing. They don't need some guy who's been up there for 3 months to tell them how to land this plane. And so, yeah, I didn't have any conversations with anybody ahead of time. And honestly, I didn't think anything about it until her opening statement where they started pointing out the issues.
Yeah.
With the written resolution itself. And I was like, you know what? He's right.
Yeah.
We got a problem here, and we need to fix it.
Yeah.
And so, I made the comments to the majority leader saying, hey, here's the questions I think, and this is a strategy I think we can take to get her boxed in and kind of get this cow back in the barn. And he said, okay, and got up and walked off. And
Never
That
heard
was
back.
sort of the
never heard
end of
back.
it.
Never heard back from him. And about two interviews later, our friend Clay Doggett got called, and he called for the question. I just looked over to Clay, and I was like, "Oh God, please don't do this," because we're not. You're putting me in a bad spot at this point. I'm torn.
Right.
And he didn't know that.
Yeah, 'cause I was going to say, Clay had no idea.
He sits
He
two
was just-
rows over.
He was like, yeah,
He was ready
exactly.
to end discussion.
He's ready to go.
Yeah, he had no idea that Jody, had.
And so,
yeah.
so when he calls for the question, of course, we vote, and
Means all discussion's over, folks. Questions called, we done. We voting.
with 75 Republicans in the House, we're going to get the question every time.
Yeah.
When we call for the question, it's going to pass.
Yep.
So I got up at that point and went up again to the original person that gave me that list of questions and said, hey, do you have the votes that you need
That's
on
why
this?
I seen you get up from your desk and go up to his.
Yes.
And I said, what is he up to? That's what I'm sitting there thinking,
And I said, hey, do you have the votes on this? Because I think I got a problem. And he goes, well, if nobody changes their vote, we should be fine. I was like, well, he goes, what's the problem? And so I explained it to him. He goes, well, you got to vote your conscience.
There you go.
So
Okay.
And that's
There it
an
is.
attorney to an attorney talk.
correct.
And that's
You
a
know.
leader coming.
Correct.
Okay.
Now another thing too, I think needs to be pointed out. The person who wrote all three of those resolutions is not the majority leader of the House,
I don't know who wrote.
Well, yeah,
the
we're
resolution.
not sure.
but it was also another attorney. I think I do know who, but if y'all
knows?
don't know,
We won't speculate
I
on
just-
that because we
the
don't.
only thing that
yeah.
I'm going to say, I think I do know.
Mm-hmm.
And for this person to be an attorney, also, it was poorly written.
Well, even
you know,
even if
and-
it was sent up to legal to be written by legal,
Yeah.
that's attorneys up there that do this every day. And just for the listeners, the basic issue here is, we got four people sitting at this table, and if three of us are banging on the table and yelling and screaming and carrying on, and Kip sitting over there just kind of standing there next to us and not participating in that, and then we write a resolution that says Kip and his friends beat on the table and carried on and did all this other stuff. Well, he didn't actually do that.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And so what happened is they wrote the first resolution for, let's say, Justin Jones. said he did this. He beat on the table. He used a bullhorn. He started chants. He interrupted. And then all they did was they cut and pasted the name.
Copied and paste.
Yeah, they just cut his name out, put her name in. Well, they didn't do the exact same things.
Yeah.
She never touched the bullhorn. In fact, at one point, he'd reached over to try to give it to her, and she pushed it away.
She pushed it away from her.
Something that I didn't notice until they showed that video
On the video.
before we started the whole hearing. So, look, hindsight's always 20/20. The brake lights are always brighter than your headlights.
Yep.
Looking back, I wish we could have done it a different way. I would have loved to have expelled her too. I'll say this though. The two gentlemen that were expelled raised $2 million afterwards. She raised $29,000. So I don't feel bad about that.
You cost her about $900,000.
That's the way I look at it.
Wait a minute. I'm going to call time out. I think you're being a little generous. I thought it was 23.
It was something along those lines.
It was
It was not very much money.
It wasn't much money for her.
No,
but
mother too.
at the end of the day, and I'm going to ask both y'all because y'all were there on the floor when it happened. I know where I was. I was in Fredericksburg, Virginia that day.
Yes, sir.
Didn't they meet at her desk and she was sort of the ringtail leader?
There was all sorts of stuff going on.
I mean,
it was chaos.
When they went over to her desk and then she led them to the well, so to speak.
Well, the two gentlemen led. She followed them up there.
Yeah,
she walked up there with them.
Yeah.
But they did kind of congregate at her
Which
desk.
they do that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, y'all do it.
She's in the front left corner, and they both sit in the row right behind her. So to go to the front, they got to walk right by her desk anyway.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of funny though. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chris.
You're fine.
But it's kind of funny. One's from Memphis, one's from Nashville, and the other one's from Knoxville. I mean, it's like they had the whole state covered among those three right
Yeah,
there.
the three craziest
It's almost
people
like
in
it
the
was
state.
planned, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist, Jody, so let's don't go down that rabbit trail.
No, the only thing that I was going to say, when you're sitting there and you're watching it, and I was having to deal with all the crazies. I had them all around me, if y'all remember that day.
Yeah, it was wild.
And
Which you
I
were
was-
having fun up there with them.
I was one of only three up there of us.
You was leading.
He was
Right.
he's probably up there joining
he
them.
was, he was up there
I
singing
learned
and
what a furry
everything.
was.
good.
Yeah.
So he was up there singing.
Oh, you were
with
saying
them
Chris
and-
was up there singing and clapping.
were
and,
you,
hey,
y'all?
Where were you?
I
Of
was.
all things, when I needed Orlando,
He's doing this the
wasn't.
whole
I was in a Republican meeting at a meeting at eating dinner, and I was actually texting Kip the entire time. You remember this, Kip? Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Fill
I was
me
like,
in.
we're good, we're
gonna come
good,
back to
baby, we're
something
all
that's
good.
here in just a second. But you mentioned too that one of there were questions coming back and forth, and of course John Ray Clemens, who's a Democrat, he was one of them doing a lot of the questioning, and he's
On the other
also an
side, yeah.
attorney.
Yes, he is.
So it was danged if you do, danged if you don't.
Yeah.
so
Well,
to
hey, I just
speak.
wanted to give Jody a little time to explain himself because we had, we'd talked about that a little while ago. So I'm glad
Before
we got
we
him
get
on
off
here.
of it,
Okay.
but the most positive thing, think about this, you involved in this too, Orlando. We really talked about you Saturday, so I really want to get that out there. And I know LGBT is loving every second of it right now. You know what that is. Go
Yeah.
ahead and tell everybody, remind them. Let's
Yeah,
go, Brandon Taylor.
That's right.
But long story short, when it came up the special session, y'all were so proud to see all the faces that packed the house that day.
Oh, yeah. It's
100%.
fantastic.
What we have, 23 of the commie mommies up there? They couldn't even get in because we had that side. I didn't realize that the media was going to have that whole
We had
other
100.
side.
We had 130 people there that day.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was
we had
fantastic.
133.
It was awesome.
133.
Yep.
And look, y'all didn't know
Fantastic.
what you were walking into. We didn't know what to expect for you. I mean, I told some of the folks back in my district, hey, you probably don't want to come up there. It could get ugly. We had a lot of intel going into that week that indicated it was going to get rough.
You know,
Well, I
we
wanna
were
tell you-
hearing the same thing, but I'm just going to tell you this: that's the problem with the male in America. They've been neutered.
Oh, yeah.
and they are. And
When
they
I
are
say I was
scared.
telling people not to come, I'm talking about like 80-year-old women.
Right,
who
right.
are ready to go up there and jerk somebody's.
Right, but you know what? There's so many
Grandma
people that
coming
do
up there,
not
baby.
want to get involved because
Yeah.
they're scared.
It is.
And you can't live your life that way.
Well, we had
Live in fear.
We had enough troopers up there. You could walk on a trooper hat from the bathroom all the way.
That's right.
Exactly right.
I mean,
Walk on that brim.
when them brims
But
were up there.
You know, the thing about it is you did have people there that were reached out in Dixon and Lewis County, and they were there. So, you know, the district overall, and we say this, we have the greatest conservatism right through this corridor.
Middle Tennessee showed up, baby. I mean, we was wearing them
showing
out. We was wearing them out.
So that's a great thing. But hey, what's next?
And we didn't come. I just want to throw this on. We didn't come to protest. We came
To eat.
Yeah, we came to Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, baby.
Yeah, Kip brought Chick-fil-A.
You know I had to throw that out there, baby.
Compliments of Representative Kip
That's
Capley.
right.
Yeah, but no, seriously, what, you know, when we came up there, we didn't come to protest.
That's right.
We
You're
came
right.
up there in support.
That's
We
right.
came up
And it
there
was
to
great.
support
Man, it was
our
awesome.
representatives.
We really enjoyed it.
It was thoroughly appreciated, not only by us, but members that didn't have anybody there that were just ecstatic to see friendly faces. in
Oh,
the
yeah.
crowd.
In
Our
the
leadership
Senate,
was
we filled the Senate
that too.
chambers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, of course,
Yep.
it's a half the size of y'all's chambers, really. But we had that whole side.
Well, I mean,
had that whole.
We had
thing packed.
70%. We had 70%.
We had leaders of our members of leadership coming up, up to us saying, "Man, y'all, how many people you got here today? This is crazy. We've never seen,
Well, you know what that says, and I'll put this out on the air. Don't mess with y'all.
There you go.
Because
Watch out, baby.
If they mess with you guys, we'll be in full force, because we send you guys up there to protect us.
Yep.
And guess what? It is our job as your constituents to protect you
you're
when
right.
you need it. And I'm
You're
going
right.
to tell you something. I think that's one of the reasons when you guys were able to vote, to not have the special session, that you guys didn't get much backlash, because if there had been backlash on you guys, we'd have came back again in full force, and we would not have been as friendly that time.
Yeah. It was, that was a weird, that was another weird one, wasn't it, Jody? That was a strange time.
I think one of the greatest learning moments, the one thing that we learned as freshmen,
Yeah.
there's a core group of us that are really tight.
Yep.
Kip and I have been tight from the moment we met each other.
Yep,
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
knew right away that we
100%.
see eye to eye.
Yep.
But Kip and I, Brock Martin,
Yep.
Ed Butler,
Yep.
Monty Fritz,
Money.
we all see things the same way.
Yep.
But the one thing being new to this is trying to figure out where the boundaries are of what you can push when you're up there in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And what we learned, I think, in the group, and we've talked about this, is nobody in Nashville's leadership, nobody up there in the Capitol can vote for us back
right.
home.
That's right.
The people back home are who we work for. They're the ones that are going to judge how we vote and what we do and if we stand for the right things or not.
Well, and that's the first thing they tell you when you get up there is vote. Vote your district. You got to answer your people back home, and you're right. The first year, I mean, I've had several different times where I've had to go up to leadership and just be like, "Look, I ain't there with you, baby. I'm sorry, I can't. It's just not. My folks don't want this. I don't agree with this." And they've been like, "Yeah, you're fine. It is what it is.
And
You
the
got to do
more
what you got to do."
vocal and visible and active that y'all are,
Yep.
that's just
It's an attention. getter.
that's fuel for our fire.
It's just we told you. I mean, it's so because
Yeah.
some people, and there are instances where some people will be like, "Oh man, my constituents, they don't want that," and in
It's
reality,
used as a shield.
yeah,
sometimes.
me and Jody are sitting there like, I know some people that live in your district, brother, and I don't know about that, but
Well,
anyway,
So
There
they
was
want to
a-
do it based upon what they felt, not what the constituents
it's a-
said. And I want people to
it's a
understand.
shield.
I
It
want
is.
people to understand
It's a
that
good way
with
to
you
put it.
guys is you guys have done that. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys have
Well-
done that. What was best for your constituents, but also, just listening to you guys, you're going to do what your constituents want.
I mean that's why we're there, ain't it?
100%.
And, and it's your job
that's the
to
whole purpose of
educate
being
us.
there.
It's y'all's job to educate us if we're wrong, but ultimately you're giving that decision up to us.
Well, when the special session conversation started being had and everything broke down after the Covenant tragedy, there were a whole bunch of us that made no bones about it. Look, y'all can do whatever you want to do, but the people in my district will not support me voting for or supporting or being involved in any type of gun control legislation in any way.
Red flag down, baby.
That's right.
That came from John Rich, didn't
That's
it?
exactly where it come from. He got a big banner. Shout out to Todd Warner. That's where the banner came from. You may not have known that. And I thought, I wish TFA that day would have said, hey, when Jerry Thompson got up there, this actually came from Todd. Todd had that banner made. So it was a great present to John Rich. I don't know if he's hung it in his bar in Nashville or what he's
I'd
done
say he's
with it.
probably got it.
He got it somewhere.
Got it somewhere for sure.
That's a trophy.
That's right.
But you know what else is interesting, and I've seen this, is if you go look at Governor Lee's 18 points that he put out there, it's like he got it from the Democratic playbook.
Well,
I mean,
from their platform.
From their platform. If you go look at the Democratic platform.
The odd thing about that whole deal, too, is the proclamation that came out was quite different from the press release. The press release that came from the governor's office had some things in it that were completely different than what was listed in the proclamation.
Yep.
And the proclamation had 18 points. This one only had 9. So y'all mentioned earlier that there were 7 of us that voted in favor of taking up the resolution to adjourn on the opening night. Well, look, I can tell you that morning there were 35 or more that were interested in going forward with adjournment.
They backed down.
They backed down.
They
had their arms twisted. Is what happened.
There's some of that. There was some of that. There was some of it that the if you back it up a week, I'd say there's close to 60 that were interested in adjournment.
Okay.
But things started changing when we started seeing.
As they do.
Of course.
Yes,
you got to wait till right up till the minute you push the button and to decide what you're going to do. But things started changing when we saw the governor back down from some things. We saw the press release came out and it didn't have anything in there about the Second Amendment that was going to put us in a bad spot. The proclamation itself came out. It has a few more things in it, but our leadership's telling us, hey, there's no votes for this. None of this stuff's going to pass. So people started getting a little bit more comfortable with, all right, well, if we have this session, then it's not going to be as big a knockdown drag out as we thought. And then people started thinking, well, maybe I can flip the tables here and I can put something out there, file my own bill that says if you don't have an SRO, then anybody can carry on that has a permit. And that's where we started seeing some of that. People started seeing it as an opportunity. People on our side of the aisle that are pro-Second Amendment and pro-conservative Tennessee values started saying, well, if we're going to do this thing, they're going to force us to be there, let's try to make some noise.
We're already going to spend taxpayer money. We just might as well take advantage of it, too.
So now, did that come from y'all's leadership as well, you think?
Oh, no. No. Absolutely not.
Okay.
And I would say that if our leadership was sitting here, our leadership did not want us to go in that direction. They wanted us to keep it very narrow on 6, 8, 10 bills or whatever it was that they wanted to get through. And all that's based on there was a group of members that were meeting with the governor's office and negotiating how this was going to go down and what was going to be in that proclamation. And so I think there were some promises made back and forth. I don't know that. I'm just speculating because I wasn't in the room. But I would speculate that there were some promises made back and forth from the governor's office of, well, if you do this, as long as you take up this part that we're passionate about, then we won't fight you on that issue.
So what do you think caused Bill Lee to take basically a 180 right before the special session started? Then
he had 75 Republicans that were like, brother, I don't know.
Kip Capley, when you had a meeting with I mean, you talking about the cow ate the cabbage.
Yeah, I did.
And look, that happened over the course of the summer. The governor was having these small group meetings with anywhere from 5 to 8 to 10 members at a time, having us come up to the residence to sit down and meet with him. And look, he was probably doing 60, 70% of the talking in those meetings. But the 40% or 30% where he was listening, he wasn't hearing good news.
No, it was not good news.
He was hearing, look, Governor, my people don't support this. I'm not going to vote for it.
Well,
there's no way this red flag law is going to pass.
And the original call that we had just sucked. I mean, and I would tell him that it was awful.
bad.
I mean, because we had
Those
no
18
idea. We had no.
points.
Yeah.
I mean, I can
Well, the
remember
original call
conversations.
itself was
Yeah,
so broad.
the original call, because I remember me and Jody were talking. I mean, it was almost like every day of like, have you heard anything? Nope. Have you heard anything? Nope.
And that was
that was going on
That was a
between-
huge problem.
Yeah.
Everybody, and then he'd get a call from somebody. I'd get a call from somebody. We would call leadership. What's going on? Well, we don't know. And then 2 weeks later, well, we don't know. And then 2 more weeks. Well, we don't know. And we're getting closer and closer and closer because you got to remember he didn't call the special session till
till a week before.
it was a week or two before. We didn't even know when it was going to be.
And that's where this whole thing becomes a big issue. Is you
No
can't,
transparency.
Zero.
Right, that's the problem. You make the call in
April or something. Yeah.
3 hours
Then
after
you thought
we
you were gonna
adjourned.
have it
Yeah.
in May.
3 hours after we adjourned. I forgot. That's a
3
good
hours
point.
after we
Yep.
adjourned. I wasn't even back in Dixon County yet when I got
Yep.
an email on my phone telling me that the governor was going to call a special session.
Yep.
So 3 hours after we adjourned, he announces, I'm going forward and I'm calling a special session. I
Yep.
said I was going to do it and I'm going to do it.
Then he moved it to July.
Then he realized he got pushback from the Senate that, well, look, we're not going to be here. There's no way you can do it in May. So he had to back up again and find the time when everybody would agree to do it. So everybody pushed it back to August. Well, then we spend May, June, and July waiting for the governor to tell us what the call is going to be. What's it going to cover? Because we can only operate under the parts of the code that he gives us to
Yep.
work in on a
Right.
special session. So it's not like we can spend 3 months drafting bills
No.
because
We don't even know we have no
what
idea.
parts of the code
Yeah,
we can
that's
work
exactly
in.
right.
To
exactly
bring
right.
this all to a close, because like Lawrence says, this
Oh,
is
man.
the fastest hour in radio.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
But
doubt.
the only
My
thing
goodness.
I wish the House would have done is exactly what the Senate done. So we're going to hear these 3 bills, and that's it.
Well, the
And-
House was trying to get some other gun legislation passed, I think, to our advantage.
Yeah,
to the
Chris Todd had a real good
advantage.
bill.
But he had a real good bill, but some of our true conservatives shot that bill down.
Well, that's
in
a
the
whole nother.
Education Committee.
Shout out to Stryker's Steakhouse one final time. Get you something good to eat tonight. Go pick it up for your family. Jody's got 3 events coming up. November 7th, Greystone Golf Club in Dixon, 5:30. That's a Tuesday with Mr. John Rich. That's the first one. The second one, Keep the Light Shining, Hickman County Veterans Park, November 3rd. That's a Friday, 5:30. That's 105 East Swan Street. And then this Thursday, 2128 Summertown Highway, High Forest Farms, 5:30 with Mr. John Rich, supporting our boy Jody Barrett. Jody, what's your social media stuff? Shout it out real quick.
Oh, it's all at Jody Barrett, State Rep, or State Rep Jody Barrett, something like that. I'm all over Twitter. I'm real popular on
He's a
Twitter
big
with
Twitter
the
guy.
Democrats.
On
They
X,
love
yeah.
me.
That's
Yes,
X now,
baby.
They love
Jody
Boy, they
Barrett
love me
on Twitter.
on the Twitter.
You know what? It's funny. When you're coming into Hohenwald, they got a famous son there in Hohenwald.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We can't forget about our illustrious senator.
Big dog.
Oh,
Big
Joey
Joey Hensley,
Hensley.
baby.
Yeah,
Shout
I was
out
catching
Joey.
y'all.
I may be the biggest Joey Hensley fan in the world. I
I
love
don't
that
know.
man.
I don't know. That
Now,
man cured.
he hadn't cured me of the gout. But
I'm about to say, you get the gout like I did, and you get cured. You're going
How
to
much
love
time we
Joey
got?
Hensley. We got 3 minutes.
let me
left.
tell this quick story. When I ran last summer, the very first campaign event I went to was Lewis County Meet the Candidates, hosted by the Lewis County GOP. And as I pulled up in my truck and I'm putting my suit coat on and I'm walking over to the tent, the police are dragging one of my opponents off to the pokey. And and the first person that I meet is Joey Hensley, who goes, well, he just got carried away.
That sounds just like Joey.
Well, it's a little slower than that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little slower.
It is, but that sounds just
Just
like
that
Joey.
quick one-liner right there. That's all you needed to hear from Joey. You know
That
everything
was
he's
it.
thinking right there, baby.
That
That's
was
all
it.
he needed to say.
That was my introduction to the campaign trail.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. This
Shout out
is
Joey.
awesome. We got a minute left, but I want to tell our listeners. I hope they realize how fortunate, and I feel fortunate to be able to listen to you guys explain what goes on in our government. And they got to hear this firsthand, some of the most controversial things that happened in the United States this summer.
Sure.
And have you guys explain it like you did. And for people to understand, we got a chance to see from our representatives and hear from them what actually took place and what went down. I'm going to tell you something. That's awesome, guys, and I hope people appreciate it.
We're down
as
to the
much as I
last
do.
30 seconds.
Tune in next week, same time, 5 o'clock. Go to Kip Capley for state representative on Facebook, votecapley.com. We really appreciate y'all listening in. Jody, thank you for driving all the way down here, hanging out with us.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to
And go
explain
to
that.
Strikers
Absolutely.
to get you something
Go to
good
Strikers
eat.
tonight, baby. Go in there and get you something
Shout out
eat
to
now.
Strikers.
Shout out to Strikers.
Oh,
Steakhouse.
here we go.
Shout
All
out
right.
to Strikers Steak.
God bless everybody. Have
Thank
a
y'all
good
so much.
evening, and we'll see everybody again next week.